Hey everyone, welcome to the Down Level Podcast. This is episode 46. This week we're going to be talking about, movies, Marvel stuff that's coming out, especially Thor. Our take on what's going on with, whether you watch a movie at home versus if you watch it in the theater, as well as, kind of discussing a little bit of Stranger Things. We're hoping within the next couple of weeks we'll actually have a full-blown episode where we kind of discuss the first 4 seasons. I want to get my dad back for that. I'm looking to get one of my buddies on. But in the meantime, let's get into the episode. All right, guys.
Some short.
There we go.
Getting that going real quick, and then go ahead, David.
Yeah, it's fine. So on the topic of entropy, there was this author that wrote a bunch of short fiction. I've probably mentioned it a couple times. His name was George Alec Effinger, and he became like the first story that he wrote that got him popular, that won like a bunch of awards and things, was actually called "What Entropy Means to Me." It has like the title, as far as I recall, doesn't have a lot to do with the story. The story's kind of weird. I don't think I ever read it. I just read the synopsis on it. But yeah, every time I think of entropy, it makes me think of Effinger, and makes me think of the question, what does entropy mean to me? And honestly, not much, because I don't think about it.
This episode is brought to you by Farmer John's
bread.
Popcorn.
Good Lord.
Farmer John's Popcorn, the biggest flavor pillow you will ever have in your life.
When you're tired, you can sleep on the bag. Just make sure you seal the ends or you'll end up with ants.
Take it camping, start your night off right.
I mean, and what's great is that if you just like open up a corner of the a part of the bag and lay down on it, you can just eat while you sleep.
Exactly.
There you go. Then you wake up and the pillow's gone, but you got a full belly.
And this episode for me is brought to you by Judgment. I need to finish this game. It's sitting on my back catalog.
Oh, if we're doing all this nonsense. Oh damn, where's the other one? Oh.
Yeah, these bags are $5 a pop at our grocery store.
Oh wow. Is it just buttered popcorn or
it is straight up family recipe buttered popcorn.
Do they have white cheddar?
That I did not see, but I can look into it. It is a whopping 20 ounces, according to this.
So we're doing brought to you by streams. Brought to you by, I went out and picked up 2.
Oh, yes.
All Westerns. Django and the Great Silence.
Yeah, you said you were going to go look for some stuff. Awesome. Is that the original Django there?
Yep. OOG Django.
Sweet.
And then on top of that, I also had gotten Django Prepare for a Coffin. So I got 2 Django movies to get through.
Nice.
Nice.
I mean, no offense to Jamie Foxx, but old school, man. That's it. And I just finished episode 4 of season 2 of Stranger Things. So I am cranking right through them.
So how are you enjoying okay. I guess we'll get into this, right? So Stranger Things season 4 just wrapped.
Right.
Colin, you're making your way through Stranger Things because you've never touched the series whatsoever. No. How did you find season 1?
Well, I have 2 views on it. And Vinny, you might have to edit part of this because I have a very negative take on the early part of season 1 that might actually get the
like David had to leave the room.
The first one who gives negative takes in this group.
Well, well, if you didn't have this negative take on it, I'm surprised.
All right, let's hear it. I'm curious.
Well, on a good note, cast and crew, very good. Okay, story writing, 4 out of 5. I personally am not seeing what everybody's made such a huge deal out of it, but I'm enjoying it. I sit down with my 10 pounds of popcorn and I can at least sit through it. Okay. That being said, the first 3.5 episodes got me wondering about the Duffer Brothers. Okay.
Okay.
Because it borderlined on softcore teenage porn. And I'm wondering who the hell thought it was a great idea to put a close up on 2 teens simulating sex. Not a fan. Okay. It was disturbing. the amount of
Man, it's been so long since I can't. I gotta think of what episode that is.
the first time the girl and the boy hooked. God, I can't remember. I'm still trying to remember names.
Oh, you're talking about
Are you talking about 11?
The sister and the boyfriend who was the jock. No.
Nancy.
Steve and Nancy.
Nancy and
Steve.
whatever. Steve. Yes. The whole thing with that and her taking her top off and showing her in a bra. No. I did not need to see that. Okay. It made me unbelievably uncomfortable watching that stuff. And it just, it was just this long block in the beginning where there was constantly something. And yeah, I was in the 80s and I remember what being a teenager was like. But
all the people playing those teens were in their 30s.
That is true. In their late 20s.
All of those actors are in their 20s. The kids, well, the Nancy and Bumble
I have no idea how old they were. I was just making a joke about the fact that back in the day, all high schoolers were.
Yeah, all the high schoolers were. Yeah.
Yeah, it just my first thought when constantly seeing that stuff and cringing was, how far down the line are we going to get before the Duffer Brothers become the next Weinsteins? And I'm sorry, it was uncomfortable, and somebody clearly got their rocks off to show it that much. It's an unpopular take, and I can't.
If I remember the context, right? If I remember the context, this was kind of like first.
This is when they went to the pool. This is when
after the pool scene for starters. Okay, but there was a lot of, raging hormones that I get. Okay, it was the 80s. I get the whole juxtaposition of it.
Yeah,
they didn't need to have it so long on the camera. They could have inferred to it, and you still would have gotten it. But it was, it wasn't some fancy house in the woods. It was a cheap apartment in my brain where you got 10 people packed into a room with cameras right up on them. That's it. And I couldn't do it. I had to power through that stuff to get to the decent storyline, to watch Winona Ryder be freaking out and still be correct. And David Harbour being this gruff guy. And I enjoyed all that. When you got past all that weird sexy time,
right,
stuff, the story worked out.
Okay, and from what I recall,
that she's good. She's very, very good. But thing is, my first exposure to her was in Godzilla versus Kong. So I already knew she had the chops. So I got to go back and see earlier stuff, but that's not the first thing she's been involved with either.
It's just here she has a lot more to do.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like the show, the majority of the show hinges on her, right? Yeah, it's the other kids, everything, but it's all the other kids kind of reacting to her. She does a lot of heavy lifting.
Yes.
Especially as the show moves along.
Yeah. And like I said, I'm about halfway through season 2, and I do see that. And she can carry the show. So you've got this large cast ensemble and you keep introducing new stuff. And I get that. That's what you're supposed to do for growth of a show. But I can see where season 2 feels like that they're putting her on a back burner a little bit to introduce other elements. So far,
yes,
it'll probably come back around. Like I said, I'm just gonna power through the whole thing, and then I will give my full assessment on it. But that's where I am right now. I like what I'm seeing. I'm just not edge of my seat. I don't understand all the hype for the whole thing.
And that's kind of the way my brother was whenever the first season came out, right? Everybody was ranting and raving about it and all this stuff. And my brother watched it and came out of it and was like, it's fine.
Yeah.
And that seems to be your similar take. And honestly, season 2, I think, is generally considered the weakest season of the show. Everybody says that season 1 is the best. I need to go back and rewatch season 1 because season 4 was pretty damn strong. Okay. I mean, season 4 was crushing it pretty good. Like,
that's what Travis said. He said 1 and 4 were the better of the sets.
Yes. Season two does a kind of a little bit of retreading of season one.
Yes.
There's an episode that's in it that just is, it comes out of nowhere.
Yeah.
It does some, and then it never really goes back to it. There's a minor callback in season 4 if you're paying attention, but I've been kind of waiting for them to pay off some of that stuff in season 2 that they haven't quite got to. Season three just it's good, but it's at the same time they shed a lot of the dread. It's still there, but there's a lot more of a cotton candy coating to everything in season 3. Season 4, they really find their stride again with all of it. They all, by this point, all the characters are, you have them established. The actors are all just killing it, right? They've had years to hone their craft a little bit more. There's a handful of characters. There's just so many characters by the time you get to season 4. Some of them just don't have a lot to do.
Yeah.
Each character has kind of their story moment in season 4, but some of them are more impactful than others just because, oh yeah, you've been here and you've been doing things this whole season, and I don't all of a sudden come to the realization of, oh shit, yeah, you were a part of this group and you were in that scene. Huh, okay, well, cool, that works. So Vince, how did you find season 4? I guess you're in the same camp as the majority of us.
So, for me, I guess it's just, well, first off, for me, for the series, it just kind of like, it feels like it follows my childhood a little bit, but like the kids were almost like Uncle Colin, my dad. I could see them being those kids at that time, going through stuff, and then having us
a little older, but yeah, that's
so
we would have reacted a lot of the same ways. Yes.
Mm-hmm. So, and you think about like the fact of the first season being kind of like almost off the cusp of the 70s movies, where you had a lot of nudity, you had a lot of teen stuff that we were getting in that first season, and then it moved into more of that 80s horror. Yeah. So it seems like for me the show has always been like it's following that trend of how things go throughout the decade of 80s. So even like them going from playing D&D to the second season, them going to the arcades, it's kind of what I was doing.
As far as like chronology and time wise and events, yes, it is covering that very well.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, the writers definitely grew up in the 80s and had a good feel for what was going on around. I will give it that it historically it feels accurate as far as actual trends and events and stuff like that. So I will definitely give it that. I will give that a 4 out of 5 as well.
So as far as season 4, I enjoyed the hell out of it. There is a lot more dread, a lot more horror elements into the series, or this season, a lot. The characters really grew. I think that them, extending the season an additional episode, because I think traditionally most of Stranger Things, at least the first 2 seasons were 8 episodes only. I wonder if had they split out the episodes to be, hour-long episodes instead of like most of them were running long. I mean, even like hour and a half, a couple of them. The final episode for season 4, is almost like a 2.5-hour movie. So
it is. Like it absolutely is.
Yeah. So you think about like if they would have expanded this out, it might have. I don't know. It may have given extra scenes. Maybe it would have flowed better because they could have changed how things went. But I enjoyed it every moment of that show. I don't want to get too much into it because I know that once Colin finishes, we want to definitely do a series recap of the first 4 seasons.
Yeah.
Because I'm actually planning on watching it with Anna because she hasn't watched it with me. I think she watched the first couple episodes and she's not big into horror, so she watches sci-fi and everything else. But she's actually gonna watch it with me here pretty soon.
That's cool.
And I think that once she gets into it, she's just gonna love it.
Well, but Julie wants to watch the stuff too, and I have it only set up here in the studio, so I might just move it over to the bedroom one as well, and then let her watch the stuff too, because she's interested in what she's like. Is this just on out here? And I'm like, yeah. So I know that she would. That's so a lot as far as like some of the stuff she enjoys watching. That definitely is up her alley.
So one of the things that I would add too is that the fact that like when season 4 part 1 came out, I was dealing with COVID. So I literally was laying in this bed with my phone, just watching the whole thing. It was just like, that's what I did to try to pass the time while I was trying to get over that. And it was weird because I was like having like almost like flashbacks of having COVID because it was literally a month later. And I was like, man, I'm not confident. I'm not like, feeling under the weather and all this stuff. And I could just enjoy the thing. And I just watched it. And, I think that Friday, as soon as when I got home from work, I was like, just binged those 2 episodes and was ready to talk about it, but I didn't have anybody to talk to about it.
I will say this, I think it was the 2nd episode of season 2, where they went back and covered that month between points in the end of season 1, between everything happened. And then a month later when he's putting the thing in the box for her, he didn't actually know it was for her. He was a guess. It kind of feels like that they went and shot the footage, but they didn't know if they were going to get more than a season 1. So they just had a bunch of extra stuff. And then they're like, okay, we can go put this in. Because if they reshot it or did it for season 2, then they did a real good job of matching everything up to season 1. So it from like it's just extra footage that they didn't use, or a bonus episode or something like that, or did they actually go back and reshoot it? So I will give them high marks for that. It actually, going from season 1 to season 2 and being able to go back and say, okay, this is how she managed to get out of that situation, which was predictable, but still it was seamless.
There's definitely a sense that like they got a season 1 and they kind of, it seems like they did everything they wanted to do at the time. Yeah. And then all of a sudden they I think I've used this analogy before, right? But the dog caught the car, and all of a sudden they had this huge hit on their hands, and everybody's like, oh, hey, you need to go do another one. And they're like, oh, another one. Yeah. I mean, it Squid Gamed on them. That's what I'm thinking is they knew that they had something good. They probably had no idea how good they had it. Yeah. So
well, they probably had a plan out of what they were planning to do with the series if it took off too. They probably didn't even think that it was going to take off.
Well, I read somewhere not too long ago that they had a span that they originally wanted to do. Like what Eric Kripke originally wanted to do with Supernatural. He wanted originally 5 seasons. Yeah. He had it all mapped out. I read somewhere that the guys, if they were hoping that if it took off, they had a start and an end to it. Yeah. And supposedly it's coming to an end.
Yeah, season 5 is the last one.
And then they're doing a prequel.
Wait, there were more than 5 seasons to Supernatural? I don't know.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, somewhere along that line, yeah.
So I'm looking forward to hearing what your take is with going forward with how the characters grow.
If I can keep at the pace I'm at, because I'm doing a lot of studio maintenance, getting ready for album work. So during the prep work, I'm putting it on and binging it and going through and everything like that. If I can keep at the pace, I might be ready by next Monday.
Okay.
Cool.
So
yeah, and I'll talk to my buddy Omega, because I know he wanted to be on if possible.
All right. So if I'm not, it'll be really close. So I'll be able to, discuss a good chunk of it, if not the whole thing. If I can keep it the pace I'm at.
So one of the things that the series gives me is that whole, like you're playing D&D, like each of these characters are like, and first starting out playing D&D characters with a DM who's experienced, but they just have no idea how to play the game, what they need to do. And like, Will just happens to be the one character that, the player that rolled really badly and happened to be the one got stuck in a thing and sat out the whole game while, the DM's going, here, this is what your character's doing. This is what your character's doing while everyone else is getting to play.
Yeah. And I do like the parallels that they put between the story plot and the D&D stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Clearly, again, children of the 80s. Okay. Apparently this was stuff that they did, or they were people adjacent to people who did that, and they absorbed all the information that they possibly could have. So, and they were able to apply the D&D ideas and the terms and the gameplay and stuff like that to, okay, this could be this, and this could be this, and this could be true sight, and things like that. And it works. I will give it that.
My one caveat with the D&D stuff is in season 4, there's a moment where it's early in the season, and there's this climactic kind of moment that builds up, and one portion of that moment is them playing D&D to defeat a boss, and the characters roll, like these characters are rolling to hit this boss that they're fighting in their campaign, and one of them rolls a 20, and everyone acts like the fight is over, and my immediate reaction was, but wait, you have to roll damage.
Yeah. Yeah, even if you get a critical hit, I mean, this is like what we're talking about, advanced Dungeons and Dragons back then. At that time,
yeah. Just because you roll a crit doesn't mean you're gonna kill it unless it's only got like a hit point.
Yeah,
then I like guaranteed to win.
All right, let me ask one question. Season 1 and season 2 are basically a year apart. Do they do the same thing with 3 and 4? Do they?
I think it's
because it goes from 83 to 84, just shy of a year.
So by the time season 4 comes out, I think it's like 86. So maybe they're like, it's like a couple months between 1 and 2, and then a year and another year, or 2 years, or something like that.
Okay. So it jumps forward a little bit of time. It's not compressed on top of each other. Okay.
Yes, it's not like Star Wars, the sequels, where it's like literally right after they finish blowing up the Star Killer,
whatever.
The First Order comes and like is attacking them. They're on their planet. There's a little bit more time between each episode or each season. Sorry.
Yeah. It's not Thor Ragnarok to Infinity War.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, but yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Because that actually for the juxtaposition of the season 1 to season 2 thing, plus they were able to go back and make it seem seamless for, they were able to stretch the time plus fill in the gaps pretty seamlessly. So that actually worked for me. That formula works.
Cool.
There's a lot of attention to detail in the show. So
yeah, that there is.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it was such an odd thing that, again, there's this, it's essentially a throwaway episode in season 2. Like, I think there's a little bit of busy work done with some of the characters, but the majority of the episode just, there's a thing that happens and then it goes away. And the only reference so far, and it was a nice little detail that if you're paying really close attention during the beginning of season 4, that you notice a reference in the background. And it was like, oh, hey, you actually finally did a callback to that episode.
Okay, yeah, because I'm going to be starting episode 5 of season 2.
No, it's almost the end. It's like almost right at the end of season 2. There's just an episode where it just kind of goes off way out in the left field, and you're like, wait, how did we get here? And then the very next episode, it's right back to the thing. It's like you could almost excise that episode completely out of the season and you would never even notice it was gone.
It was kind of one of those like world building episodes where they just like, here, we're just going to drop this here for use later. We're going to pin it in the pin board and then come back to it. So,
but I mean, to the topic of detail, right? It was just kind of, it was cool to see that they actually they actually showed that, oh yeah, we didn't completely forget about this episode and the stuff that happened. Here's this again. It's just like over a character's shoulder for a moment. You're like, oh, okay, yeah, I got it. That's neat. It just don't really think about it. It was just something that I picked up on in the very beginning of season 4. And I was like, oh, are they going to do something with this? And then they didn't. So we'll see what they do with season 5.
Yeah.
If they ever bring that back or not. But if they don't, I'm not going to be too hurt about it. Just whatever.
Like I said, I was reading some stuff, and it seems like they're going to go with season 5 and then they wrap it up. And then supposedly there's going to be some kind of prequel thing, which will probably
and all sorts of, because I mean,
they said they're going to leave it open for a movie or some kind of spinoff after this.
Yeah, because the spinoff that some prequel, I didn't really read into too much because I didn't want to get any spoilers from it. But my understanding, it's going to be true prequel, like how, the Department of Energy got set up there and stuff like that. I mean, yeah, they're going back and doing little nuggets of it right now, but who knows?
We're just gonna do the history of the MK Ultra program. It'll be fine.
Yeah, I mean, then you have like the whole Tokyo branch that's doing theirs, and this starts the whole Neo Tokyo thing with Kira and the kids.
All right, let me ask you this: very beginning, season 1, episode 2, it featured, I guess, a bank robbery or something. It didn't look like a bank, but they came out in masks, and they had the whole 5-minute chase scene, and the lady who created who used the powers had the number 8 on her arm. Do they revisit that at all? She was another one of the kids, like 11.
Right.
She was like 8 or 9, I think it was on her arm. I couldn't remember. But they were in the van, and she made the cop think that the tunnel collapsed, and he stopped the car, and they got into a wreck, and that was the end of it. Are they going to revisit that, or is that just something I have to
just wait to the end of the season? You'll see.
All right.
There's some stuff there's definitely some stuff that needs to be addressed in this stuff coming up with the next season. Hopefully it'll be brought around.
All right. Because that right there is like I don't know. It's just, I'm thinking, okay, this is going to tie into something somewhere else. And you got some of these new characters who might be tied to that or something like that. It's the only thing I can't figure out at the moment. But everything else I've been able to kind of say, okay, this kind of feels like it's going to do this. And, so far it's panned out that way. So yeah, the reason I'm getting a 4 out of 5 marks is because there is predictability.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But again, I think that's entirely based on the fact that they're so good at covering the 80s and stuff like that, and grown up in the 80s and been a part of all that crazy stuff. I have that kind of mindset. So I honestly think it's more of a symbiotic thing.
It's definitely not breaking any new ground with what they do, right? It's not like going out there and really shaking up the mold or shaking up the formulas. It sticks pretty close to the formulas. The only time, and I was listening to some people talk about season 4, and I kind of agree with it. Part of some of the hype around season 4 was really because you had that gap between part 1 and then leading into the finale episodes. So it's weird. They did this almost hybrid binge model to week model, right?
Right.
Because they had the ability to put out quote unquote part 1, right, which was 3/4 of season 4. And then they were able to do like a whole new press junket where you're seeing all this stuff get established, and then you're going up into the end game, and they're like, oh yeah, hey, there's a bunch of people that are going to die. And you're like, oh, really? So now you're kind of thinking about the season in a whole different kind of light. Yep. And so then you go into the final couple set of episodes, and you're like, oh man, I'm getting 3 days away from retirement vibe from this guy. Oh man, this guy's talking about like family and future plans and all that. That's
something here. Yeah,
that's the Grim Reaper standing right behind you, sir.
Yeah.
And so like season 4, they actually do kind of mess with you with those little signals, right? So you start getting in your head like, oh shit, who's gonna die? Like who's actually gonna bite it by the time you get to the end of this? And because you do have those 80s tropes, and I mean movie tropes in general, right? It wasn't just the 80s, it's gone through the 90s and everywhere, right? So it did make it kind of fun going into those last 2 episodes of season 4 of trying to pinpoint, like, okay, who's giving off more death vibes than the other characters? Because towards the end, you're like, shit, is everybody gonna die? Like,
Who's
what's
rolling
going-
those bad rolls, man? I'm telling you.
Yeah. And then there was Millie Bobby Brown got called out or criticized for calling out the show for not wanting to kill anybody.
No.
But and she was joking about that too. And people
was
were,
it? I
Yeah,
didn't
it was a-
didn't want to read it.
Yeah, it was a joke. The thing is that
I'm thinking, no, they killed people.
There's a formula. There is a formula that they do that it's fine. It works, right? And I'm curious to see how and if they shake it up in this as we go into this final season of the show. If they've almost established a trope in their own show. So I'm curious to see if they'll actually turn that trope on its head and throw everybody for a loop.
you know what? I'll just say this right now. I'm hoping that they're all like it's turned into like D&D. You know, this is like, you know, people riding horses and stuff, or like, you know, and they have like weapons and shit. That's what I'm looking forward to with this next season. I think there's going to be a time gap and some kind of time jump. I mean,
Oh, I thought you were praying for TPK or something. No, I don't think they'll go that far, right? I mean, they might introduce LARPing. Fucking nerds. I don't know. We'll see. But I don't know. I'm really curious. Like I said,
The whole thing is a giant role-playing game in a role-playing game.
huh?
Said maybe the whole thing is a role-playing game in a role-playing game.
so hey, we'll probably finally get this whole thing that we've been always wanting. Like, you know, whenever they did the Dungeons and Dragons movie, you know how like at the end of the movie, Dad was all like, "Yeah, this should have ended with them like, you know, at the table leaving the thing because it was all a game." And this would be kind of cool is that the whole thing is a game.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
Yeah, I'd love to have that. I would love it.
Well, yeah, I mean, because they're, you know, it involves a game already in it. So what if the game is part of an actual game?
Yeah,
So like a layered, you know.
the whole
You're
Alice
talking,
in Wonderland kind of thing.
Deception.
Yeah, exactly. And it'd be actually kind of cool as it's like them when they're older.
Yes.
And they're playing a Dungeons and Dragons game together as a group. They finally got together with their family and stuff, and they're like, "All right, guys, let's get the game on." It's like, and it's Will who's telling the story, and that's why he's kind of out of the whole thing. He's the dungeon master.
See, that's what they're gonna do with him. Because, like I said, there are some characters that they haven't gotten a lot to do, and you're waiting for their breakout moment. And yeah, they have a couple character moments that are good for them, but they don't get the really big, impressive, like, you know,
their moments. Yeah, I mean, I'm serious. I'm hoping this goes well, and I really hope at the end of this it's going to be, like I said, it's just them older at a D&D campaign, but it was like themed to what their past was and stuff. And
I don't see it.
This is a great game.
I don't see them pulling that out, but it would be interesting if it would be interesting to see how they would play that off.
Well, because like even with the D&D cartoon, they never did that either. It was like them are on a D&D ride and they get sucked into the D&D realm and have to help the dungeon master, you know, free his son.
Because everybody thinks that everything that everyone wants to see with D&D is just it's generic fantasy, right? It's like, oh yeah, everybody loves D&D because the Forgotten Realms and Dritz and all that. It's like, yeah, that's a part of it, but the other part of it is just the camaraderie side to it, right? It's almost like that's why all of these god awfully named anime like Sword Art and all that almost plays into that, right? Where you're getting sucked into this RPG game. They don't quite take it to that level of it's just people playing the game and enjoying it.
Yeah, just playing and they're role playing. You know, that's the thing. I don't know, man. That's they don't ever want to acknowledge us gamers. They want to like make it this whole thing of well, you're sucked into the game or some weird thing happens and it's like, no, just have it where these guys are having fun together. They play a game and they're normal. We don't have to do this whole Big Bang Theory kind of thing. Just play it straight. Because that's one thing is, it would be cool because then it would be like something my dad would have DM'd a game for us to play, or he'd love to throw things on its head and have us go through something.
Yeah, it'll be curious to see where they go with it. Like I said, I don't see them taking it that far, but if they did, I'd be interested to see how they stuck that landing.
Mhm.
But
Yeah,
we'll see.
Dismount.
We'll see. We got a little bit of time to wait till we get there.
Who knows, Vinny? Maybe you'll be the one to write that story.
That's true.
There you go.
Yeah. But anyway, so how you guys been?
Okay.
Good, man. 4th was good. Went and did something I've never done before, which was camp at a beach. We were originally supposed to have an Airbnb, but at the last minute, the person running it pulled the rug out on us and tried to put us in a smaller area, but charge us more money. But because we have so much camping gear, we're just like, nah, we're gonna go find a camping spot. It was cheap too. They had water hookups, electric hookups, all that stuff. The only thing that none of us really took into consideration is the fact that if you're camping pretty close to the beach, there's nothing stopping the wind, right?
Yeah.
So you get out there and I was checking, I have a weather app on my phone for the area, and it was like 25-mile-an-hour winds every single night. And I had never gone and looked up like the wind rating on our tents or our pop-ups or anything. And thankfully, a buddy of mine, every time we go camping, he packs a big box of like heavy duty stakes and additional rope and stuff. So we just tied everything down, every structure that was in the camp area. We tied all of our stuff to and just reinforced it because, man, every single morning there was like a backhoe that would just drive through the parking lot with mangled up pop-ups and tents that were just torn to shit, and they would go and throw in a dumpster. And every night I would just wake up and just felt like the whole tent was about to be just torn up off the ground and flung into the sky and all sorts of nonsense. But, once you got used to it, once you got used to the heat, right? I mean, you had that nice wind. So once you got into a shaded area, that breeze was just cooling you off constantly. But the second you stepped out, man, it was brutal, but it was good. Camping's always fun. The hardest days are the first day when you get there and the last day you leave, because setting up and tearing down sucks. But other than that, it was awesome. It was a good time. We had a blast. Kids had a good time with it.
Good.
Yeah, we didn't do much. We were going to barbecue, but it was just too hot, man, which is kind of the thing right now. We've been dealing with like 105, 106 degree weather here in Texas. It's like every time I'd get off work, I'd be like coming home and I would pass out because just from heat exhaustion, from being in my car, even though I had the AC on, it's still hot enough that it was like, it just drains every ounce of energy you have. But we've been getting ready for the big changeover at my job. So that's going to be starting possibly this week. And then I'll be officially with my new company Monday.
That's cool. No, it can be kind of nerve-wracking, not really knowing all the ins and outs of a new company, what all the expectations and everything are. But usually there's good to be found, right? I mean, when you're still gainfully employed, there's always something good to be had, right?
Yeah, it's going to be a transition. I mean, not on my end, because most of my stuff I know what I'm going to be doing. It's not a problem with that. It's just making sure the new company's up to speed on what's going to be coming up, like what we do at our job. Since they're being outsourced. I mean, our IT department's being outsourced, so just all that transition has been rough. I got this on and I hear banging outside. It's because somebody's driving around with their freaking car. Boom, boom, boom. It's the bass.
Yeah, man. You gotta get that thump.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if it was like the vibration of someone banging on my front door or something.
Yeah. I had a moment like that earlier when I was watching toward the end of season 1 when they had all the scene where they had all the cars and the ambulances and stuff like that going toward where they found the body. Okay. Everything's going to the left on the screen and got a nice surround stereo thing going on. Everything's going to the left. All of a sudden I hear fire trucks and stuff going up to the right. I'm like, what? This isn't surround. I look outside, there's fire department whipping by at the exact same time. So I got sirens going all around me. And I'm trying to figure out what's the TV, what's the real thing. I'm like, what the hell? Because we live on a secondary road, one of the major secondary roads. I mean, the road is like literally 30 feet from where I'm sitting, you know? So they whip by here and it echoes through the whole house.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting here watching this and it's like 3D and surrounded. I'm like, what?
It's like, what is it? Those D boxes?
Yeah.
When you go to AMC.
Yeah. So yeah,
David's having flashbacks when he used to work there.
We didn't actually have those specialized seats when I was there, man. It was
I know you did. I know you did.
It was just all still the traditional lazy ass seats. And it's so funny to go into movie theaters now, right? Because they've sacrificed the number of seats for the quality of seats at this point, right? Because like
everything's a recliner.
Every single theater, all the way down to even the little bitty side theaters, are now filled with those automatic reclining seats and all that stuff. And you're like, okay. I mean, you're probably losing maybe a third, right? Maybe a little bit more of your seating capacity because of how those things are spaced out as compared to the older seats. So it's kind of interesting to see, that being done, right? But it's the change in the market, right? It's people need a reason to go, and other than just, hey, it's a big screen and I can buy overpriced snacks and drinks. Now it's, oh, hey, we'll serve you guys alcohol and we'll give you really nice reclining seats. Isn't that nice?
Yeah.
Well,
do y'all hear the bass at all?
No.
I'm afraid how my audio is going to be picking this up, and I'm like, oh,
I'm not hearing anything.
You're good, man.
All right, we'll find out.
Just speak to the beat. Just speak to the beat, and you'll be good.
Yeah. One upside, I guess, I could see to them with the changing of the movie theaters and less seats and stuff like that. Easier to say is sold out a show. Because if you have 100 tickets that you can sell per theater per show, you take out 25 seats so you can put in all these better reclining and stuff like that, better chance that you sell out that particular show. You sell it out, it creates a more of a hype. So I could see that kind of being a side effect of it, or one of the unintentional parts of it.
Also, you have the ability to say, well, this is the reason why prices increased, right? It's like, we've upgraded, and now that we've upgraded, now it makes sense why you're paying $16 a ticket, $18 a ticket, $20 a ticket, whatever it is, right? So
it probably balances out either way, but still, get the same amount of revenue, less seats, more asses and less seats.
Well, and the biggest thing too is like, so did any of y'all get to see Thor? I didn't get to go see it, but
not yet. No.
So I've heard mixed reviews about it. Like everybody mainly likes the movie, but then there's too much comedy. There's too much.
Every single review I have heard has trashed this movie. Has absolutely torched it. From like what you're saying, they've ratcheted the comedy way too high. Christian Bale's gore is wasted.
Yes.
Right? He is both the best part of the movie and the most underutilized part of the movie. I've heard that it just feels like a lot of the stuff that's going on was it's like they've regressed Thor back to the idiot that he was in the first movie, instead of all of this character progression
growth
that
he's had,
all the way up to the end of Endgame, and now all of a sudden he's back to being a drooling, knuckle dragging moron. Like, So yeah, the mixed reviews bit, the best I've heard people say is, yeah, it's great for like little kids. If you take them to that, then if you're a little kid or you can just completely turn your brain off and just sit down and watch it, you might have a good time. And that's the best reviews that I've heard of this movie.
Yeah, I've had a couple friends that went and saw they so they enjoyed it overall, but there was just like a lot of like problems with it. You know, the comedy is the biggest thing. They underplay some of the themes that are in the movie with comedy. But apparently, from what I heard, this movie is like almost originally was supposed to be like 4 hours long or something like that. Or at least there's 4 hours worth of footage that was filmed for this that was cut.
Yeah.
So
there's a lot of Christian Bale stuff that I heard. Was
I wonder how much of this movie feels disjointed if you're really kind of following what's going on versus what we got, and maybe.
Well, it makes you wonder if there's that much laying around out there. You know, what's the connective tissue that got removed out, and why did the scenes that get left? Because another thing that I've heard is that like Valkyrie is almost pointless in this movie, and so it's like, okay, I get why she's there to be, you know, probably the target of gore at some point to try and draw people out, but it's one of those things where, and it's kind of goes back to what you know I was originally hearing, and my brother's original concerns with the movie is you're trying to juggle a bunch of really big, really important storylines to the character of Thor. And yeah, hey, it's not a short movie, it's a longer movie, but you still got a lot of balls to juggle as you go along. Can you maintain that and make all of it stick and feel natural and make sense? Or do you have to sacrifice some of these story beats and wind up with an underbaked product by the end? And it sounds like it's the latter.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to watch it till it hits streaming.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing. I was listening to somebody was talking about how the fact that like the movie's not doing well, it's not projected to make like the $1 billion or whatever it's supposed to, and it's like, but you're talking about a time where we're kind of like post COVID. Most people don't have the money right now with gas prices and other things going on to be able to go and say, hey, I'm going to go to the movies. You know, you're not going to get that general audience that just, you know, hey, I want to go see a popcorn flick. I'm going to go to theaters.
Hey. Dude,
Top Gun.
No.
Top Gun crossed $1 billion, apparently.
Right. But that's the thing, though. Top Gun has been talked about for almost 2-3 years now? It was originally supposed to come out 2 years ago, but they didn't want it to release until it went into theaters. Plus, you're talking about a sequel that's like, you know, 30 years in the waiting.
Dude, who was honestly out there chanting in the streets for a Top Gun sequel? Who was doing that?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Honestly, was there this great big groundswell of people that were chanting at the top of their lungs, we want Top Gun, no, that movie came out of nowhere. It just like Tom Cruise got a wild hair up his ass and was like, you know what? My buddy Val Kilmer's got throat cancer. You know, he probably doesn't have a lot of acting. Hey, we did a movie together. It'd be kind of cool if we went back and revisited that and gave him a chance to shine in the limelight or whatever, right? It's like it was a passion project for Tom Cruise that he just decided, yeah, I'm just going to go do this movie.
Yeah, but the thing is you had 2 or 3 years of this movie already in the lexicon for everybody right now, and there are people wanting to see it because the trailer we got and stuff like that. Versus like what Thor: Love and Thunder, we've only had like really kind of a year of hype for that movie.
Thor movie that they've ever done, or like, but think of it this way though: you're talking about the sequel to what a lot of people argue. Stupid light, man. I swear, you get a light, you think it's going to help, and then just becomes more of a pain in the ass than it's worth. Technical difficulties.
Never come between a man and his rant.
See, there you go. See, he's they're counter arguing with me, and his light goes out. The power's like, no. This is because I know where David's argument is. It's not that because David's argument isn't the fact of what I'm trying to make of the fact that like there's things out there that are making people less go to the theaters when they are so used to a condition now to see things at home.
But my counter argument is here's Top Gun, right? A sequel to a random movie in the 80s that the most well-known thing about it is a volleyball scene, right? Who remembers the dog? Who talks about the dog fights in Top Gun? Almost nobody. You would, but the majority.
That's because I like fighter planes, and stuff like that, and I like Robotech.
But be honest, go talk to any Joe Schmo in the streets, right? Walk up to any random person before this recent Top Gun movie came out. Walk up to them and say, "Hey, do you know the movie Top Gun?" If you're lucky and they say yes, ask them, "What's the biggest scene that you remember from it? Is it going to be the part where they're flipping off the Russians? Is it going to be the love scene between Tom Cruise and what's her face? Or is
who's dying?
Or is it going to be the volleyball scene? Which is it?"
I never saw it, so I don't know any of that.
I've never seen Top Gun, and the one scene that I know exists in that movie, the volleyball scene. The only reason why I know
word of mouth
flipping the one dude off is because I think I saw a clip of it once upon a time, and then I know that Tom Cruise has a love interest, so I assume that there's a little hanky panky that goes on at some point. Yeah. But the only scene anyone ever references at all from that stupid movie is the volleyball scene.
What are you talking about? You're dangerous, Maverick. I don't like
I might know more about the songs than the movie itself.
Yeah. But so here you have, right, this sequel to a movie that no one really asked for. In the same time, right? Seriously, yeah, there's been 2 years of hype, but how many people were honestly talking about Top Gun Maverick this whole time and not talking about Spider-Man No Way Home and talking about, all these different movies that have been coming out over the year since that movie was announced? There's been a lot of other movies that have had a lot more hype behind them than Top Gun. And here it comes out at this time, at this place, but it gets a lot of really good word of mouth. And that's what drags people into the theaters to go see it. Meanwhile, you've got something like Thor, right, which is the 50th Marvel movie that the last 20 made $1 billion.
I'm waiting for the argument here.
Huh?
I'm waiting for your argument because I know where you're going with this. It's not the Top Gun.
It's a follow-up to what a lot of people regard as the best of the Thor movies, right? Ragnarok. Right. The exact same director, right? You have a lot of the humor to it. They were teasing the Guardians, right? Which is one of the more beloved teams of the current MCU. So you had all of these things working in Thor's favor. Yeah. And now it comes out and the word of mouth is mediocre at best.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's definitely not gonna eclipse.
Yes, but you're also talking about the fact that when Top Gun came out, gas prices weren't as high as they are now. First off, so people aren't going to go and spend money to go. Dude, I'm serious. I could go to theaters, or I could stay home and save gas and watch something on Netflix or the other streaming services I have. Plus, considering the fact that Disney has been putting out most of these movies on their streaming platform. But so you've conditioned your audience to want to wait to go see a movie.
Fair enough.
So
what happened to Doctor Strange though? Because Doctor Strange didn't break $1 billion, or at least the last time I saw it, it hadn't yet. It was still like 50 million under. It hadn't quite eclipsed $1 billion yet. So what happened to Doctor Strange? Doctor Strange was before that. Was before all the gas prices. Was before everything that was.
Gas prices were still high at that point.
Not as high as they are now.
Well, that's what I'm saying there. But my thing is that why would I go to theaters?
Gas prices weren't as bad as they are now.
Why would I go to theaters?
Gas prices. What about Doctor Strange? Because we were
okay. So here's the reason. David's doing this because the fact that he is wanting Marvel movies to take a back seat for a while because there's too many of them. It's oversaturated.
Well, that was the funny thing is I finally watched Doctor Strange on Disney Plus.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I enjoyed it.
Yeah, exactly.
It wasn't the best thing I've ever seen, but I came out of it as like, you know what? That movie wasn't bad. Thor, I just have no desire to go and bother with. And part of me wonders if it's not because outside of Ragnarok, the majority of Thor movies have suffered, and a lot. Thor is almost Hulk-like in the sense that he does better when he has someone to play off of, right? Yeah. He's always had Loki as his counterbalance, where he's been, where Loki's been the crazy one. He's had the ability to be shown himself to be the more mature side between him and Loki. Ragnarok introduced Hulk. Now he's got another crazy person that he's playing off of, right? Between those two. In this movie, he's got Jane, right? The mighty Thor to kind of play off of. He's got Valkyrie maybe for a little bit of scenes, but the majority of the movie is being held up solely by Chris Hemsworth and Thor. And Chris Hemsworth is a good actor, but is Thor a character strong enough to carry his own movie? So far, he hasn't really been shown. He hasn't shown the ability to be able to do that. So part of me wonders if, I don't know. I don't think the general normie populace looks into it that far. Maybe it is true. Maybe it's just everybody looked and said,
but think about it. So
holy shit, gas is like $5. No, I'm chilling at home, guys. We're watching Turning Red for the billionth time.
I'm gonna watch Stranger Things. I'm gonna watch. There's tons of stuff that's coming out. I got video games and backlog of stuff I can do. I mean, but that's my point. Is the fact that like you can't sit there and say just because of like not you guys, but like you can't make the argument that because it's bad storytelling and the word of mouth when the movie's only been out like what 4 to 5 days. I mean, by the time this episode comes out, it's only going to be out there maybe 7 or 8.
Yeah, a little over a week.
You know,
so you can't like
word of mouth carries a movie though. I would argue that's why Top Gun did a billion because word of mouth on Top Gun was, this movie's great. You need to go see it.
Yeah.
Yes, that is a point right there. You're looking at the fact of Top Gun, yes, because the fact for one. I can tell you there were a lot of people that were looking forward to that movie. And then anybody who went and saw the movie felt the movie was great and it was better than the original movie. So the other thing to this argument, though, is the fact that, like, of course, Top Gun has been out longer. It's had more time to demand something from audiences to go see it. And plus there's no streaming. This is only going to go to video and streaming like later on once they're done, because it's not slated to go to HBO or any of those things right away, like The Matrix or some of these other movies that were like, we're going to be out there for a month and we're going to come out to streaming later on.
Doctor Strange took what 2-3 months, right, to hit streaming?
Didn't seem like that. It seemed like it was pretty quicker than that.
I think about 3 months, a little over 3 months, I think is what it was.
Yeah. So, I mean, Thor, it's like home releases now, right? It's like Thor's coming out right now, but it's going to be almost Thanksgiving probably by the time you actually see it, in on Disney Plus. So, and that's part of where I wonder about just the superhero genre in general, right? Is it to the point, are we finally hitting that wall, right? Are we finally coming up against you know what? Because and I've heard a lot of people talk about the fact that one of the things that's kind of hamstringing phase 4 of Marvel is the fact that no one, like Marvel, in terms of the first phases, right? They set up Thanos, and suddenly here you have this villain at the end of the road that everything is leading towards, right? Okay. Everyone knew we're going towards the Infinity War. We're going towards Thanos, the snap, all that stuff. That's where we're going. But right now, Marvel's just kind of rudderless out in the ocean, floundering around. Some people talk about, Kang is a thing, or Kang. Yeah. Well, I almost said Krang, but better group. I forget. And then they had the whole multiverse thing, but now Thor isn't dealing with the multiverse. So it just seems like they're sort of throwing everything against the wall as hard as they can as they down the road. And I've heard that a lot of people feel like that's sort of holding them back from getting invested in these new Marvel movies because they don't see where it's going. And because they've been so conditioned to expect that, now it's having some kind of negative effects on the turnout. I don't know how much that's true, but it's kind of an interesting idea.
So that's a good point, because me and Adrian were talking about that Saturday. So the thing about actually it was Sunday. Sunday. So I went over to help him move and stuff like that because they got a new house and everything. And but the thing about the problem with Marvel right now is there's two things. One, there is no direction. This is supposed to be the world building era of Phase 4 of Marvel.
Yeah.
But they're not world building on certain things. What they're doing is they're setting up characters that no one cares about. And they're taking shortcuts to get these characters here instead of like trying to write better stories and write better characters. Because you think of like how bad Miss Marvel's doing.
I'm enjoying Ms. Marvel. I mean, and yes, they are staying with the multiverse thing in a little bit of a way and stuff like that, but I'm actually enjoying more of that than I am a lot of other stuff.
Because like Adrian said, he's watched it with his daughter and stuff. He said it's just not getting his attention. It's not like, if you compare it to what we got before, it's not hitting the marks it should be, and we're like, what are they going to do? Because originally Dad was telling me that Thor was supposed to have some kind of reference to the next big bad, which is going to be Galactus. There's nothing in the movie that kind of.
Is it Galactus? Because I've heard Galactus, I've heard Kang, I've heard like there's 3 or 4 different ones that get thrown out there.
From what
Kang is being set up on the multiverse part of
it, but he's not supposed to be the big bad. It's supposed to be
not
Galactus.
Yet. Who knows? All I know is that Marvel is coming back to Comic-Con in 2 weeks, and supposedly somebody's going to be explaining where they're going with it at some point during one of the halls. They're, because like Vinny said, they are doing world building stuff like that, but supposedly all these pieces, and TV stuff included, is all supposed to be hitting this pivotal point because they hit all their benchmarks with Love and Thunder of everything they wanted to do for Phase 4 to get it out there. When they hit that I read an article last week that said, okay, with Love and Thunder hitting theaters, they hit all their benchmarks of everything they wanted to do with the Phase 4 stuff that they announced that stuck to the wall.
But from my understanding, right, it's like, what all have they established to this point? Okay, there's a multi. The Carmitage is destroyed. The what was the evil book? The one that was Wanda. That one's destroyed, right?
Well, a copy of it is destroyed. The Darkhold.
Yeah, the Darkhold. The copy in the current universe is destroyed, right? So it's like they set up the MacGuffin that you think it's like the Cosmic Cube, right? Okay, the Cosmic Cube is going to be a thing that ties through, and then you find out that it's hiding one of the stones, and on and on and on. But now it's like you get, hey, here's this thing, and then it gets destroyed or goes away, and so it's like, okay, again, where is the thing that I'm supposed to follow and keep an eye? Like, what's the ball that I'm supposed to keep my eye on as it travels through the rest of this? And maybe it's there, right? Maybe Adam Warlock, who was teased, what is it now, 5 years ago, will suddenly make his grand appearance in the Marvels.
Guardians 3.
Yeah, he's supposed to be in Guardians
Will Poulter is playing him. He is coming in. He'll be in Guardians 3. But I'm thinking that, honestly, Phase 4 is going to end with Ant-Man 3. I'm thinking that by the time Kang comes back around in Ant-Man 3, then they're going to say, okay, this is where this is going.
We'll see. I'm curious.
Because you got the Marvels coming, you got Ant-Man coming, and the rest of the hype is around like She-Hulk and Secret Invasion. And
see, that's the funny thing is I don't really hear a lot. I don't see or hear a lot of hype about. I mean, like what Wakanda Forever is like right around the corner.
Yeah,
and they haven't even shown a trailer for that movie yet.
No.
Like, I was thinking maybe they would show it at the front of Thor, but there's nothing. As far as I've heard, there's been absolutely nothing about that movie. Right now, they're busy going through Miss Marvel. Maybe by the time you get to the end of Miss Marvel, they'll do an announcement of the Marvels, right? Maybe you'll see how that's leading into that movie.
Yeah.
But that's the other problem with it is you have so much of the movies now that are feeding off of the miniseries and the TV shows that if you're not invested, right?
Everything.
if you didn't sit down and watch all of WandaVision, then going into Doctor Strange 2, you have no idea what's going on. Right?
Exactly.
So and they're almost stretching themselves way too thin. Like another complaint or problem that people seem to have had with the new Thor movie is a lot of the effects just look like crap. And I've heard a lot of comments from people where they think that they've got so many effects heavy shows between all the Star Wars stuff, between all the Marvel stuff, right? That you're stretching these VFX artists to their max. And if you're not stretching the good ones to their maximum, then you're having to go out and hire up, a million people that are mediocre at best. And so now the effects are starting to suffer. From it. So
well, there's too much going on with Disney in general with Star Wars and stuff, because you have you have groups of people working on different things, and then there's like they're trying to do things under the table from other people. They filmed Kenobi in like 3 months.
Yeah, it was crazy.
And they were still working on post-production before. I mean, all the CG effects right up until like the last episode.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's crazy.
But the problem is like, I don't think that we're at the end of era for superhero stories. I think the problem is that the formula that got those stories to where they were or where they are now aren't going to work. You're going to have to change things up a little bit. Also, I think that you need to stop injecting current politics, whatever, because this isn't our universe. These aren't our universe. So we don't have to have these things that mirror ours. Like, oh yeah, look, it's so here,
So I really think they need to take their foot off the gas a little bit in terms of it. I mean, just in the last year, there's been so much in terms between TV shows and movies that I miss the days where we got maybe 2 Marvel movies a year, right?
Mm-hmm.
You had one towards the summer, and then you had one summer holiday, right? Now it's like 2 in the summer, 2 in the holiday, 1 sprinkled in the randomly in between there. And in between all those movies, now we have TV shows that we need to keep track of and follow through, so that by the time we get to the movie, we understand, oh, hey, where did Clint run off to? And who's this chick? Oh yeah, I need to go back and watch the Hawkeye series to know, where I'm supposed to be at with these characters.
Right.
And I get that it's part of them trying to get to that next group, because the original groups are aging out. They're trying to keep this money train rolling. But by doing it the way they're doing, it's just so much, man. And yeah, you can stream a bunch of it. But I'll be honest, after watching X amount of times of dudes in tights and chicks in tights running around doing superhero stuff, at a certain point, I want to, step back and watch, a dude wander Japan with Ken Watanabe trying to figure out, Yakuza crimes. It's like, I need breaks at certain points. It's too much. It really is. I really think we've gotten to a point where there's just, the market is so flooded that it's too much for people to keep track of and keep on top of. But I don't know.
Being someone that's came in the whole, comic book era, there were so many comics. I could say the same thing, but I never did. I always had something I wanted to read, and but it got to the point right now where there's too many opinions, and people want to inject their own thing into a story. That is kind of tainting what the point of what these stories were about in the first place. It's about escapism, being able to get lost in the world and enjoying something without having to have something that goes hey, look, here's this, it's red, look, it's so on the nose, it's just jarring. You want to just follow the red thing instead of following the characters and where they're going.
And it's something about that, right? It's because what was it? I was watching Maximilian and the Yo Video Games crew review Thor, and they were talking about X-Men, right? Like for them, they didn't particularly care for Thor, and at this point, they're really just waiting on like X-Men and Fantastic Four with Doctor Doom. And they pointed out, they're like, yeah, you can't really do X-Men because like at this point, how old, like if you try and set up Magneto and Professor Xavier now, like, dude, Magneto's old as dirt at that point because so much of his character is tied to him going through the Nazi concentration camps and all that. So how do you modernize someone like Magneto without being too heavy-handed with the messaging, right? And it's trying to find that balance. It really is. It's like people need to have more lived experiences to speak to broader issues, it seems like. And I don't know if it's just the writers they have are trying to get their break in, but they're being handed these huge tentpole things. They're going in and they don't know how to be like better at speaking to things without just shoving it as hard as they can in your face with it. So I am really curious, right? Because I mean, eventually we're getting the X-Men. So, and Magneto can't be from the 40s because, again, dude's old as dirt at that point. So I'm curious to see whenever we get there, how are they going to modernize the X-Men for this universe? Because they're going to have to,
unless they make first class canon.
But you almost don't want them to do that because Hugh Jackman's not coming back as Wolverine. He did Logan. He's done. So how can you have Hugh Jackman Wolverine because Hugh Jackman Wolverine is canon in First Class universe, right?
Right.
Days of Future Past, all that stuff. So that's that universe's Wolverine. How do you establish a new Wolverine in this new canon without rebooting it to some degree?
You've almost missed the opportunity to be able to inject these characters because you had the snap that could have done it. You had this whole multiverse thing that could have just caused a rift and change that like made these characters just exist.
Yeah.
But also the problem as they go into these other teams, right? And as they establish these other groups, like the Eternals, where the hell were the Eternals during the snap? Right? I haven't seen the movie. I think they give some explanation for it.
Yeah, they did. They explain what happened to a degree.
Yeah.
But the Eternals also opens up a plot hole. And
right.
all
But the more and more you dig into these things, the more and more you start running into bigger and bigger plot holes. If the X-Men existed in this universe and they've existed as they were shown in First Class, which means that Magneto and all them have existed since the 40s, then what the hell were they doing during the snap and Thanos and when it's like the problem where everybody attacks New York, but every single Marvel team that exists in the entire universe is in New York. So when the Avengers were fending off that first incursion, well, where were the X-Men, right? What was going on with that? And I'm sure they can, all the Avengers were like over here between these areas. And if you look like really closely way off in the distance, there's a little red light. Well, that's Cyclops' optic beam way out over there. So the X-Men were just on the other side of the city or whatever. But the more and more you establish this stuff, the harder and harder it becomes to explain past events, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm curious when we'll hit that reboot point because it feels like every comic series hits it at some point, right? You write yourself so deep into a corner that, okay, how do we get out? Well, turns out Tony Stark wasn't actually an asshole the whole time. All of these people were actually in a pocket universe created by Franklin Richards, who was just kind of creating people based on his memories of them. And that's why we got the characters that we did. Reboot the universe. Let's go. I don't know. I'll be curious to see how far they can take it, how it goes along, and where they wind up.
Yeah, because you don't have a point in history that you can replicate the situation that happened with Magneto's upbringing.
Well, there kind of is. Over in Eastern Europe, there was genocide, but it wasn't anything on par with it. I mean,
But then you change, then you run into, okay, do you have to change the ethnicity of Magneto, right, to fit? Is that where the modernization comes in? Are we going to go full Ultimates where you have people completely changed, like the core of their character is more or less intact?
well,
But
they have been pulling from the Ultimates a lot.
yeah, so that's where, like I said, I'm curious to see how they go about trying to stick these teams in this universe that they've created, because it is going to require some adjustments.
Well, there's the what they did in like Spider-Man 2099 when they brought in the Fantastic Four. It was an actually version of the Fantastic Four that got trapped in a pocket universe. So when they came out, they just happened to be in 2099. So
yeah,
do something similar to that. Maybe there's already been mutants, but we just didn't know about them in the Marvel universe. And the X-Men, the first set of X-Men, were trapped with Magneto and Professor Xavier inside a pocket universe or whatever.
Yeah, that's where the Fantastic Four and the X-Men have been this entire time. Little baby Franklin Richards was born, and somehow he sucked all of the mutants and the Fantastic Four into this little bitty pocket universe that had a bunch of horrible movies and sequels that no one paid attention to.
Exactly.
And now here they come bursting forth into the MCU to reestablish themselves.
They could always blame it on Kang.
Yeah,
they could always blame it on Kang.
I mean, because if he's in, maybe they're in the quantum verse. Maybe that whole pocket world, Kang could be a serious MacGuffin if they did it right. Oh, by the way, his encounter with Ant-Man could be like, oh, by the way, we have to pop these two bubbles. What are these things? And then, oh my God, there's all these different kinds of characters now.
Yeah, and like I said, I'll be curious to see how they go about it, right? Because they could absolutely do some MacGuffin work and somehow shoehorn it in and make it feel natural and make sense. Mm-hmm. Or they could go in the completely opposite direction and flub the whole thing all the way through. But if it gets us a cool Doctor Doom, it gets us a cool Doctor Doom.
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
Hopefully what's coming of like Wakanda Forever, and clearly the Marvels is not going to have anything but the Skrulls and probably the Kree in it. That'd be my guess. But Wakanda Forever and Quantumania could very well be the things we need to look for. Because, the TV stuff, She-Hulk is going to have more Hulk in it. Echo is going to have Kingpin and Daredevil in it. And then leading up to a new Daredevil series.
I hope that's what it's going to, because I kind of reacted with a lot of other people where it's like, oh, hey, everybody, we're bringing back Daredevil and Kingpin. It's like, yes, in the Echo series. Who? What? What is this? Wait, I actually have to go watch Hawkeye to know who this person is and get some backstory?
Yeah.
Shit, I just want Charlie Cox running around as Daredevil kicking ass. That's all I want. I don't care about any of this other crap. Bring me back the Marvel Daredevil series because it was so damn good. Please. Yeah.
And supposedly Jessica Jones is going to be a subplot in Echo as well. So it seems to me like they've got an idea and then they wanted to start shoehorning stuff in because of comic continuity and reasons,
I mean,
they just didn't have to make that stuff not canon in the first place. Just allow it to exist. It already did.
Yeah. And they established it was existing in the MCU universe because that first season of Daredevil, part of it was about the rebuilding of New York after the events with Thanos. So you already know those characters exist in universe. So I don't know.
I mean, look what they did with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. They completely threw that show to the wolves, and there was lots of crossover. There were lots of references of events. It was Nick Fury that was hiding a helicarrier that was allowed to show up in Winter Soldier, and they gave us Ghost Rider. They originally gave us the Darkhold. They gave us Inhumans, and they just Coulson. Okay, yeah, it was a good fit for that. That worked out. Then all of a sudden, just right in the bin. Doesn't matter. Not canon. Whatever. Because stuff.
So they pulled a DC with the New 52.
What are you talking about? No. They pulled Star Wars with the extended universe.
You mean the Disney verse?
Yeah.
Disney.
Yeah. Like I said, we'll see how it goes. The majority of the stuff they have coming out, I have no desire to see. We'll see if some of the trailers and things can convince me otherwise. Like I said, so far, Doctor Strange was the one I was the most interested about of this current crop, and it was fine.
Mm-hmm.
Like I've said before, I'm really curious to see how they handle a Blade movie, which I've heard no additional talk about.
They have a director.
Huh?
They have a director. That's the last I've heard.
Yeah. So it's like it would be cool to see something like Blade, be done right.
Yeah.
And then
and Black Knight is supposed to play into that.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Again, if you when you watch Eternals, if you finally sit down and watch Eternals, they actually tied the two of them together.
Man, I have just my problem with trying to muster up the strength to go watch Eternals is even from the most kind of reviewers, the current crop of Marvel, Eternals is like the bottom of the barrel of this entire most recent run of movies. Like everyone pretty much says that whenever they start ranking these movies, you might have Shang-Chi, Spider-Man doesn't count. Like Doctor Strange is usually kind of low because a lot of people apparently didn't like it very much. But pretty much everyone that I've heard talk about it is like unanimous. Eternals was just rough to get through.
It was better than the Inhumans TV series. I will give it that. It wasn't the best piece of cinematic. No, I didn't mind Eternals. Okay. I mean, yeah, they did say, okay, this is why they didn't do this during this and stuff like that. And they established a couple of things. But at the same time, they left a bunch of plot holes wide open. I mean, they left, I won't spoil it for you, but they left a giant plot hole right in the middle of the ocean. Okay. You literally cannot miss this thing. And it has not been addressed at all. I mean, when you see it, you're going to go, that's a thing.
So as bad as the Superman Returns with the Kryptonite Island?
Yeah.
No. He threw it in space. It's fine. Threw it in space. It's okay.
At least they gave Brandon Routh a second chance to redeem himself in that character. Okay.
A planet bathed in the radiation of things that would kill him. He's able to lift up with his powers that he would normally not be able to do, but because of
reasons,
plot armor, poor writing, his greatest superpower, the writing convenience. He's able to throw this thing out in space.
Yes, 100%. Completely behind it. He got shot in the eyeball in slow motion with a pistol after a man unloaded a minigun into his chest.
Okay, that's fine considering the fact that with the first Superman movie, he literally flew around the planet to make it go backwards, which would have killed everyone on the planet and flew everything off into space through and so somehow able to make just the Earth go back in time.
So my absolute he's not Superman, but my favorite storyline probably of all time when it comes to a Superman-like character doing crazy things to the planet was back when Wildstorm was a thing, right? The Wildstorm version of Superman is Mr. Majestic.
Yeah.
Mr. Majestic is Omni-Man before Omni-Man was a thing, but not murderous, right? He's like a weird cross between Superman and Wonder Woman. And there's a great single issue of one of his. He had two. No, he only had one individual run of his comics, and there was a great issue where he picks up a signal of a alien creature that's coming towards our solar system, and he figures out that there's no way we're beating this thing. It's just going to devour the solar system, and it's specifically coming to ours. So he actually goes out and creates these gauntlets, creates these things, like moves the Earth out of its own orbit, but gently, so it doesn't screw up the entire ecosystem. Goes and like changes the chemical makeup of Jupiter, like does all these different things so that whenever the creature finally shows up in our solar system, it looks around and goes, oh wait, this isn't the solar system I was looking for, and it leaves. And then he goes back and fixes everything back to the way that it was. It was such a weird issue, but it was so funny just to see Mr. Majestic. And that was the cool thing about Mr. Majestic, was that he's this super intelligent being that actually utilizes that level of intelligence that Superman supposedly has to go and do something crazy like that, and then just put it back like nothing happened, and it's fine. It works. That's why Mr. Majestic's awesome. I love him.
So you're telling me this alien, right, that can hear in the vacuum of space, that some extraterrestrial alien is sending a signal that it's coming to come to Earth.
Not Earth specifically. It was just coming to our solar system.
The Milky Way.
He could have been, you know what? He could have been coming there to shower the planet with gifts of eternal life and everything else, but no. He decided that he was like, screw these people. I'm going to move the planet out of here. I'm going to do all this amazing things that would probably could be utilized to better mankind, just to put it back and be like, okay, I'm going to continue doing my thing. I'm going to continue to let mankind kill each other because, kill themselves because the fact that, I'm a dickhead like that.
Hey man, Mr. Majestic,
Wow.
chance. That's just the way it works.
Oh,
I'm sorry. It just my brain went like, wait a minute, this doesn't sound.
that's a David argument.
Yeah, it is a David argument. I think he's rubbing off on me.
Oh, it hurts. What are you talking about?
But oh man, jeez. Yeah, so on a different note, did you guys get to see the trailer for the RoboCop game that's coming out?
No.
Yeah, you posted it. I watched it. Is he running in that? Can RoboCop run?
I have no clue. Maybe he has an upgrade. This is supposed to be a sequel to 3, I guess. But it's got Peter Weller coming back to do the voice.
I mean, that's cool and all.
Yeah.
I like having a machine pistol like in Blood Dragon. So
hell yeah, dude.
I'll wait till I see a little bit more of it before I get completely invested. But it looks like it could be free.
Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to it. It's gonna be pretty cool. And then you got the Terminator game, the survival game. I don't know if it's gonna be a horror. Yeah, I'm hoping it's not. Okay, what I don't want, and I even know I do because I think it could be kind of cool, is that a 4v1 game where you're against a Terminator, but you're in the future, or you maybe can play in the present time and you have whatever is available to try to take out this Terminator to protect your target. Because we came up with this idea with Halo back when Forge came out, where we were making games and we did this whole thing of like protect the protected Jenner or protect John Connor. So you had one guy with a hammer or something. He had like super stats while all of us were trying to defend the target. And that'd be kind of cool, your resistance people trying to protect John Connor or Sarah or Kyle, one of the two.
Right. My understanding of the Terminator thing is that it's in the future and you're basically trying not to get hunted. So who knows? I mean, to me, that could be a thing. I mean, that to me, that would be something I would play.
Oh, and
You know?
it's supposed to take place in the first future of Terminator, so the first movie.
Yeah.
So none of the extra nonsense after two.
Which again works
Mhm.
because you know that there's an end point to it all.
Yeah.
So we'll just have to wait and see what happens as more gameplay footage starts showing up and things like
Yeah,
that.
because I think we've only had the trailer for it. I mean, not a trailer;
Yeah.
it's like a teaser.
There's like an announcement trailer, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just basically you hear a female's voice. She's trying to hide as she's in a warehouse or something like that, and you see a Terminator like rip up in a gate or something, and it's like it's looking, scanning for her, and then it ends.
Which is an interesting question. All the scanners that the Terminators have, I mean, are they like heat scanners or is it like biological? Is it detecting heartbeats? I mean, what is?
Well, they can hear. They have infrared.
Yeah.
I need to look that up. I don't know. I know
Because it makes me wonder if the humans could pull an Arnold Schwarzenegger on an Arnold Schwarzenegger Terminator and get covered in mud and sit there and not do anything, would they be detected?
No, I don't think so. I think the technology is a little bit better than the sight of a predator.
So
I don't know. It's a good point. Come on, I'm here. Come kill me. Do it now. I'm here.
yeah. Have a parallel universe where you have Arnold Schwarzenegger's character from whatever movie, Predator or something, going up against an Arnold Schwarzenegger Terminator, and you get this 5-minute dialogue of what do you want?
What model are you? The hell with you.
Remember when I said kill you last? Yes, I lied. So did I.
So what you're actually talking about is a full-on Arnold multiverse
Multiverse.
crossover.
There you
Yeah.
go.
Where
So
you
like
have
the closest we had that was 6 Day.
Predator, Commando, Last Action Hero,
Yes.
all that stuff, man.
Even Kindergarten Cop. Come
There
on,
you go.
man. For that little bit of levity.
The best thing about like Jack Slater's character is the fact that he can just take it whatever damage and he'll still be fine. Whatever, regardless. I mean, the damage, things that happen to him, it's like, it's just a flesh wound.
Yeah.
I like it.
Trademark that. That's ours.
There you go.
The Schwarzenegger verse. Anyway, yeah, we've completely gone off the rails. I think this is a good checking off point here. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, sorry. I got distracted going and looking up that Mr. Majestic episode because I was trying to remember. No, seriously. Like, let me go through this. Yeah, Majestros realizes that he can't defeat the issue. So how does he go about redecorating the galaxy? He makes it all correspond with events during history because it takes him decades to do this. He builds kinetic field gauntlets that allow him to move the moon to a different location in our solar system. He relocates Mercury to become a moon of Jupiter. He superheats Jupiter so it is no longer of the same composition. He tows asteroids to Mars and uses his laser beams to incinerate them, creating rings around Mars. He intercepts a comet, redirecting it around our sun, creating an extra planet. He moves the Earth and Sun to different locations in space. He splits our sun into a 2-binary star system. And to cover up all these alterations, he builds tidal regulators under the oceans to maintain tide of the ocean's current. And he constructs a massive 3D image projector satellites around the Earth to give the illusion of the same constellations of planets around the Earth, despite its spatial location. Like that's issue 1. That's issue
Hold on.
one of the Majestic series.
I want to just hold on. Could you just imagine, like, he's in Metropolis, New York, whatever, and he's just holding himself on the ground because he's slowly moving the planet, right?
No, legit. That's like
No. Could you just imagine him just like this for like days trying to move the planet. Like
He's doing a
weeks,
handstand,
months.
basically.
Yeah, he's doing handstands. Like, hey, Mr. Majestic, are you okay? You haven't eaten in like a month. Do you need any food? Man, I bet you got to take a shit or something. I mean, geez. And he's just like,
dude, he's
never you
Superman.
mind, citizen. I'm testing my strength.
Yeah, dude, he's Superman. His sphincter can clench down so hard he didn't have shit in years. What are you talking about?
He's turning shit into diamonds.
That's right.
I knew that was coming.
People sliding Slurpees underneath him with a foot-long straw.
He helps entire communities by just like he shows up with a big bag full of diamonds and just sets it down in front of them. And they're like, "Where did these come from?" He's like, "You don't want to know." And then he
you don't want to know.
Dude, his base is in Mount Rushmore. His base is like he's sitting inside of Teddy's head. Dude, I love Mr. Majestic. He's so batshit crazy of a character. And it's sad that he doesn't get as much run as he should. Oh no.
We've gone off the rails here. I was trying to see if there's anything else going on.
There really isn't.
To add real quick,
There really isn't.
no, I don't. Not for that topic. What we were just talking about. Jeez.
No, it's not for in pretty much anything.
Come on, dude. You know what? I mean,
Been kind of a slow time.
Yeah.
I mean, personally, right? I was able to catch up on a couple movies. You had Shudder do their release of Phil Tippett. He did a lot of the special effects for Star Wars. I think he did some stuff on Jurassic Park. He did a lot of special effects, and apparently over the last 30 years, he's been building up it as a form of therapy. He's been putting together this crazy stop motion movie called Mad God that's on Shudder.
Mhm.
Oh, I've heard about that.
I watched it. It's definitely really out there, and it's very well animated, right? I can definitely say that. There's a ton of style. I don't know about substance. There's no dialogue. It's just stuff happening, and it's like it's literally just watching someone's descent into someone
Complete
else's
madness.
hell. And like I said, like a lot of the visuals to it are really cool. A lot of the stuff that goes on in it, you kind of sit there and go, I don't know what the hell I'm watching, but it's pretty. It's well done. And then last night I watched speaking of last night, I watched Last Night in Soho, which was that Edgar Wright movie that was Edgar Wright, yeah. And it's kind of, as I was watching it, it felt like a clean version of a Giallo movie, because there was the whole murder mystery plot to it that eventually shows up in the movie. There's a lot of weirdness to it. It's very stylized. It's very colorful. It's very out there. So it made me think of Giallos, but instead of it being kind of the grittiness that a lot of Giallo movies have to it, it's a lot cleaner the way the Edgar Wright movies are. So overall, it was an enjoyable little movie. If you got a little bit of time, it's on HBO Max. Go check it out. It's probably worth a little bit of time. Not exactly what I was expecting, but I had a good time with it. And then I finally finished Ronin Warriors, everybody. I knocked it out. I sat down over the weekend and was like, I'm gonna finish it. I did. Now it's time to go to the OVAs. God help me.
So what did you think
Of Ronin Warriors in general?
Yeah.
Dude, I love Ronin Warriors. It's great.
Well, I mean, just finally finishing it though.
Oh, it felt great, man, to be able to finally see them beat Tulpa at the end.
Mm-hmm.
And I never had a good enough appreciation for just how broken of a character that Lady Kazuya is in that series. Dude, she is the most overpowered thing in that entire show, which kind of goes back to all these people that complain about, not having strong female characters or people not liking characters because they're strong female characters. Like, she was a really cool character. Granted, she got introduced in a really weird way, just kind of came out of nowhere, got thrown into this show, and she just sort of shows up and starts wrecking everybody's shit. But once you get further in and you realize, who she is, kind of her history, what's going on, and how all of her stuff unfolds, she was great, right? Good character. Anubis is such a badass right there at the end. And overall, man, it was good to finally get that monkey off my back after all this time. And like I said, now I just have to make it through the ovas at some point.
Well, there you go.
Yes, sir.
There you go.
Yeah, I mean that's one of the things for me is that I've been starting to play through some of my back catalog. Part of it being Judgment. I wanted to get that done and work my way to Lost Judgment, and then start working through my other stuff, man. Just like I have so much stuff I haven't been able to play because, being a dad, doing the podcast, my work craziness that's been going on for a while now and stuff. Luckily, some of that stuff's going to start easing up as far as my job, so I can actually start doing more that I want to. Been doing stuff around the house, of course. Hopefully, looking to try to finish the room here and then work in the living room. I got to get some more shelves for the wall. But other than that, I mean, I don't know. I really need to start watching stuff because that was one of the things we have been doing is doing the whole watching movies in the Discord.
Yeah.
So we watched Golden Child this last Friday, and this Friday we're going to watch Harley Davidson, the Marlboro Man.
Nice. There you go, man.
Cool.
But yeah, anyway, all right, everyone. We hope you enjoyed this episode of the podcast. Tell us down below what your thoughts about anything we discussed tonight, especially the Marvel movies and what you think about theaters. And if you have a different opinion, please let us know below. If there's something you want us to talk about next week or the week after, drop it down below, please. In the meantime, have a great one. We'll catch you later.
Deuces.